Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. I do hope you're having a good day and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be taking a look at one of my personal favourite models. Now of course that has something to do with the fact that it is a Flybe aircraft. At this point that does seem to be quite a consistent theme on this YouTube channel. Yeah, I do absolutely seem to be obsessed with Flybe. But apart from that, I do also think that this is an incredibly good model by JC Wings. So today we are going to be taking a little bit of a look at it. Now, a little bit of a backstory before we get into it. If you've been a subscriber for a couple of months, you might have seen that about 2 months ago, I posted an unboxing and review of the longer 195 variant of the Embraer. I've actually got that model here. Now, this is in the purple Welcome to Yorkshire Flybe colours. Now this was a really impressive model. I absolutely loved this, and so really this smaller model is sort of a little bit of a part 2 to that review, taking a look at the other Flybe Embraer that I own. So yeah, that is really what today's video is all about. Before we get into it, I would just like to say I know that I haven't been particularly active over the past couple of weeks. I've just been really busy with work and with some other stuff, but it is really good to be back now behind the camera after, you know, sort of like a week's break. So yeah, let's get right on into it. Now, before we get onto the actual model, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a quick look over of the box. So I really like this box actually. It's really tasteful, really simply done, but I think it's really effective. So we've got a sort of white banner going across the front with the Flybe logo, an Embraer E170 that they're written up at the top, and the computer generated image of the aircraft just below there. In terms of the back, then we do have a little bit of information like we get on some of the Gemini Jets boxes. So we've got some dimensions of the real aircraft. Yeah, so that we've got wingspan, we've got length, and we've got tail height there. So just a little bit of information about the real aircraft there, as well as some other bits down the bottom which you're welcome to read. Not quite as much information as you get from Gemini Jets, but it's still really nice that JC Wings have gone to the effort of including something. In terms of other features of the box then, it's really quite simple, actually really quite thin. It's a really thin box, which I really like. Gemini Jets do tend to have quite thick boxes, and some of the other manufacturers do as well. Yeah, it's nice. This is just as big as it needs to be, I think. And it does feel quite functional, but in sort of quite a nice sort of way. So we've got the Flybe logo there, and on the bottom we have got the full CGI image, as well as Embraer 190 and what is presumably a barcode for sort of, you know, identifying this model, I suppose, in JC Wings warehouse or something like that. So there you go, that is the box. So without any further ado, I'm going to readjust the camera and let's take a look at the Flybe Embraer 170. Alright then, so you might be wondering actually why I'm sort of, you know, giving this model its own review and its own video when essentially I've sort of already covered this mold. You know, alright, the Embraer 195 is a longer aircraft, but it is true that quite a lot of the details on the longer aircraft do sort of translate over quite easily to this shorter 170 variant, and my main answer for that is the livery, because really if you look at these two models' liveries side by side, they really aren't that similar at all. The only thing that you can really see that is sort of, you know, identical across them is of course we've got the Flybe logo. These are both Flybe aircraft, but the white and the purple liveries contrast so much that I really do feel as though this is worth its own video. So yeah, let's take a little bit of a tour. So starting off at the front of the model, we've of course got the cockpit. Now an awful lot of detail around the cockpit there, really impressive area of the model. We've got all sorts of details. I can just about see windscreen wipers being picked out at the front there. I'm just going to try and sort of show those on camera. If you can't see them on the video feed, what I'll do is I'll put some photos up, sort of, you know, overlaid over the screen so that you guys can have a bit of a closer look. So I can see we've got some windscreen wipers up there. We've of course got the windscreens, some sort of dots, possibly is that registration number letters above the cockpit there, and we've also got quite a lot of detail around the nose with sort of, you know, where you would take it off to access the radar. That picked out really nicely that I can see, as well as I can see pitot tubes, I can see static ports, I can see all sorts of stuff. So JC Wings really have gone to an awful lot of trouble to sort of model all of that detail there, and even on a white aircraft they are still quite visible, which is nice. Sometimes it isn't really particularly obvious. It's not particularly obvious on this video feed actually, but I'm sure the photos will do more justice than the video camera will. So then we have got the R1 door on the right hand side there. I can see the red of the handle picked out really nicely there, and of course we've got all sorts of detail and what looks like potentially sort of the emergency slide housing. Is that what that square is down there? I'm not entirely sure. But just behind that we have got the Flybe logo. Now unlike the one on the purple 195, this is actually a coloured Flybe logo. So if you take a look at the purple one, it is just literally picked out in the white. But this is a much more colourful one. We've got the different colours, the different shades of blue from the Flybe, and then we've also got the other colours, the yellow, the red and the purple, which really do just make up that logo really nice. And that is a really high quality piece as well. I think it's a really nice piece of moulding. And yeah, it looks really good as a transfer there. Moving a little bit further down, we've got quite sort of plain in terms of the windows on the aircraft, but that's sort of quite common, I suppose. They do look perfectly straight and level, and actually that's something that's consistent with most of this model in terms of, you know, all of the decals look as though they're in the right positions. Nothing really looks wonky, nothing looks out of place or particularly unrealistic, so that's really good. The wings are really good quality as well. We can see we've got all sorts of different highlights there. I can see the leading edge of the wings we've got picked out in silver. I believe that would be where the spoilers came out, not the spoilers, the sort of the slats came out the front of the wings. That's really nicely picked out in silver, and you can see that that's sort of just standing out in the light there nicely. We've also got this sort of separated area, which I believe sort of shows the no step zone. Is that it? So, you know, maintenance crews can step on this bit, but they can't step outside that area, of course, because then you're starting to look at the flaps and the speed brakes and that sort of thing, and that's obviously not the sort of thing that you want to be stepping on. So yeah, the wings are really nicely molded pieces. We do also have wingtips at the end of here. Obviously these are literally just sort of plain pieces, so no real detail to talk about on the end. It's just sort of a white wingtip, and I can see the green strobe light on this side and the red one on the other side. That's really good, a really nice detail for them to include there. In terms of the engines, now these are really tiny pieces. Let me just compare in terms of size to a pinky nail there, just to give you an impression of just how small those engines are. But still, from JC Wings, we've got multiple colours and really good high quality. So it's not particularly obvious on the video feed, but I do believe that the back portion of the engine there is a different colour to this sort of intermediate silver bit. And then we've got the actual housing, which has loads and loads of detail on. I can see obviously you've got the main thing is the Flybe logo there, but there's also all sorts of detail down the bottom. We've even got sort of like a moulded out piece sticking back towards the back of the aircraft. Yeah, really good, so much detail there. We've also got the sort of silver outline on the front by the turbine there. I'm going to show you all of this in sort of more close-up photos because the video feed isn't very good. But yeah, we've got the silver outlined at the front. Doesn't look as though that's a separately fitted piece, but honestly at this sort of scale it doesn't really matter because it's so small that it's really impressive to have as much detail as we do. And even actually looking down the barrel of that turbine, you can see that we've even got some fan detail picked out there. I mean, this is like so much thinner than even the thickness of the nib of the pencil. But we've even still got some detail inside there in terms of the turbines. That's really good. Moving a little bit further back, we've got the registration number of the aircraft, which is Golf Foxtrot Bravo Juliet Hotel. Yeah, that all looks really good, really nice and straight there. And then we've got the R2 boarding door. So much detail around here. We've got obviously the R2 boarding door, but then underneath we've also got the hold cargo exit, the rear cargo door. That looks really good, and we've also got all sorts of antennas down there as well. Moving on a little bit further back, we've got sort of, I suppose this is really the main feature of this livery, isn't it? We've got the big Flybe print going down the tail. Now this is really sensitively done. Yeah, really nice, and JC Wings have managed to get the colours really spot on there. So that is really about it. I mean, it is a really impressive model. Is there anything else that I haven't really talked about? I suppose separately fitted details. Yep, so we've got 2 antennas here on the top, and we've also got 2 more on the bottom, with the rear one as sort of this sort of trailing piece that sort of culminates in a point there. It's a really unique design. I've never really seen that on any other aircraft other than the Embraers. Yeah, that looks really good. And just looking at the wealth of detail underneath here on the underside of this aircraft, so we've got the sort of pieces where the wheels would retract up into for the rear landing gear. We've got a stand hole, which is really good. I don't actually own a JC Wing stand. I don't know if it would fit on the Gemini Jets one, but I think JC Wings have their own. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm actually able to use that stand hole, but it's really nice that it's there. All sorts of other decals and bits sort of on the bottom along here in terms of detail. I mean, you know, normally you wouldn't even see this on the aircraft, but it's really nice that JC Wings have gone to the trouble. The only slight thing that I'm not particularly happy about with this model perhaps is the front set of landing gear. I mean, the rear landing gear is really good. As you can see, it's really nice and detailed, and I think it also looks really fine scale, and the tyres are really good quality. You know, all of the wheels roll on the rear sets. That's just a really nice feature. The front ones, perhaps they do look a little bit worse. I mean, the molded piece sort of looks okay, but mainly it's the tyres. I think the tyres look a little bit too thin, and it's quite obvious that they're just sort of little circles of sort of black rubber, as opposed to sort of properly individually molded wheels. So yeah, that's not perhaps as good as it maybe could have been, but from any reasonable distance you really can't tell, because there's such a small piece that yeah, it really isn't that important. So yeah, that is going to be it. I'm really trying not to ramble, because sometimes in my reviews I do have the tendency to ramble, and then it ends up being about, you know, 15 minutes long, and really I don't blame you guys for not sitting through those entire videos, because they can be quite a marathon. So there you go, I'm really going to leave it there. I would absolutely recommend picking this model up if you do have the chance. I purchased it for about £40 from Wings 400 over, I think I actually purchased it over Instagram. I know we have sort of corresponded in the past over Instagram. So yeah, I'll leave his links and sort of all of that stuff down in the description below. If you would like to check out the review of the Flybe Embraer 195 as well, I'll leave that up in the top corner there so that you can have a little bit of a look at that. But yeah, the long and the short of it really is that this is an equally good model to the other Embraer, and I would perfectly happily pick up more JC Wings Embraers from them in the future, because it's just a really nice mold, and it feels as though real care has gone into making it as good as it possibly can be. So there you go guys, that's going to be it for today. I really do hope that you enjoyed this unboxing and maybe found it useful. Do let me know if you have one of these models or if you're considering picking one up. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Alright guys, I'll see you later. Bye!